Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of True Sight, your go-to source for Dota 2 news, analysis, interviews, and of course, my handsome co-host.
Hey, everybody.
Who is back with us. I'm Ian Double John Barker. This, is, of course, is Lee Malice Massey. Lee, how are you doing now that you're back in the Dota bar?
I missed you guys. I missed you guys. It was great. It's so nice to be back. San Antonio's great. Anyway.
I've been there. It is great.
Don't want to be too negative, you know what I mean?
And as you can see behind us, we've got a brand new set. I've started calling it the Dota Barn.
I brought it. I brought it back with me.
It's true. And if you have a better idea for our beautiful set or a better name for it,
we could put a cow right here.
We could put a cow right there. Or better yet, we could put Spirit Breaker there.
Blue cow!
The cow.
Space cow.
Get it, guys?
Right.
Anyway,
Sorry.
we got a great show for you tonight. First off, we're going to kick off the night with a little bit of Shanghai Major retrospective, talking about the games, not all the crap that went wrong with none other than the man himself, Nahaz. And then in the back half of the show, we've got one of Europe's rising stars, London Conspiracy. We've got a couple players from them joining us, and they've already made fun of my inability to pronounce their names. So
it's hard.
Out of the way. So let's go ahead and kick things off real quick. For those of you who haven't heard, who haven't watched the games yet, spoiler alert, Team Secret took the Shanghai Major title in Shanghai. Team Secret
What?
of all
Okay.
teams. Nobody saw it coming. Everybody thought eHome. Everybody thought EG. Nobody pictured that it would be Team Secret
I
versus
mean, they're
Liquid.
great. They're great.
They are. And they're a
And
good
they
team,
proved it.
But they were sort of a falling star. And yet, when the moment mattered, they rose to the occasion. Here to break down the event with us is none other than Nahaz himself. Nahaz, how are you doing this evening, good sir?
I'm great, guys, and yeah, like you said, the thing about Secret is I don't think anybody. You look at their roster and you say, okay, they won. It's not that big a surprise, but this was not their tournament. They had entered arguably two straight, obviously a different roster for TI5, but then the same roster for Frankfurt. They had entered two straight majors as favorites, and one disappointed miserably at TI5, and then Frankfurt lost in the grand finals to a red-hot OG team in a series that really wasn't all that close. And then after that had just done nothing. And all of a sudden come into Shanghai. And, you know, people talk about the other big story of this event being just the utter collapse of the Chinese teams. I have never seen in any sport a region or a conference just fall as completely flat on its face as the Chinese teams did at this event. But you talk about that and you look at the teams that Secret faced on their way to the title. They took out OG, they took out EG, they took out Liquid twice. They beat the best teams at the event, and they did so convincingly. There is nobody that can argue that they didn't deserve this win.
Now, the question, of course, is: are we going to end up with another predictions curse? Everybody, I mean, eHome won in similar convincing fashion, and yet showed up to this major and just
Fell apart.
Shit the bed, I believe, is the term that we like to
great.
use in the professional circles.
I can think of a number of them of terms one can use, and all of them are similarly colorful.
Brown.
The thing that's telling to me is it wasn't just eHome. It was really people had expectations for LGD. There were a number of people that thought that Newbie might surprise as well. The Chinese teams pretty much just utterly failed, period. And I mean, they were 2-11 in series against non-Chinese competitions, and both of those two wins came against Archon, a team that most of us rated, or a lot of people rated, as bottom three, if not the weakest overall in the field. This was a failure of epic proportions, and it wasn't just eHome. And I think a lot of people, myself included, when we were doing projections, said if eHome shows up to this event playing the same kind of Dota that they played at MDL, that they're going to be highly successful. They're going to be a top 3 team. Well, they didn't. They played a very different brand of Dota. Their hero picks were different. Their offlaner, Old 11, had some pretty obvious health problems during the first day. Was hospitalized with a tooth infection. He had, in the group stage games, he had, out of, I believe, 6 games they played, he had 4 of his lowest assist totals in the patch. His 4 lowest assist totals. So it's just, it was an utter collapse of those teams. But from the ashes emerged Secret. And like you said, you can talk about Chinese teams failing, but that's not who Secret beat in the event. They beat the best Western teams, and they did so in convincing fashion.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And, you know, a lot of surprising wins in there. I think if you were an EG fan and you were watching the Secret against, or I'm sorry, the series against Secret, you sort of thought, well, I mean, this will go 1-2, but ultimately it'll be EG's win. But there was something about, you know, whatever picks that Secret pulled out, the way that they team fought, especially in the mid to late game, their ability to push objectives, and they looked a lot less indecisive in this tournament, I think. Nahaz, you're the stats guy. What do you think really fueled Secret's success after a series of, let's be honest, failures in previous tournaments?
Well, again, it's funny. I had this conversation with a number of people about Shanghai that I don't think in sports we all have a tendency to do this, and this is not just true in Dota. This is true in almost every major professional sport, that the story tends to be about one team failing. And I don't think it has to be, especially when you're talking about a tournament like this. I mean, we talk about top X finishes, but sometimes there are just Y really, really good teams, and Y is bigger than X. And I think that this was a case of EG being really good and Liquid being really good. And, you know, even Alliance played pretty darn well, even though people are talking about them disappointing. A lot of people say that they probably should have beat Complexity.
Well, but Complexity also played really well in that series.
Complexity did great. Yeah.
You know, look, Complexity, other than Secret, Complexity is one of the teams that I believe is the real winners coming out of this tournament. I think they really have something to build on going forward, but I by no means think Alliance should be crestfallen after this tournament. But you asked specifically about EG, and let's just be honest. EG really, their draft in the final game was really suspect. They elected to go with Pugna on a mid Sumail. He, I believe, had 12 deaths in that game. If you go back, Sumail's played almost exactly 200 professional games in the last 12 months of his career, and 12 is the third highest death total that he's had in those 200 games. So that was a very suspect pick. The Fear on Nyx Assassin, that's actually a hero that Fear had played in the past and played it very well. I don't necessarily know that it fit that well into that game. It's funny, too, because OG's draft in the deciding game of their series against Secret was also a little bit weird. But at the same time, you give Secret credit for holding up, for maintaining their composure under pressure. And I thought their drafts were consistently excellent throughout the tournament.
They did. They always seem to put themselves in a winning position, and they always seem to have a good plan going into the games. It actually sort of reminded me of Alliance at Starladder, which you correctly predicted Alliance winning that one.
But I would say one of the other teams at Shanghai that I haven't heard you guys say much is Team Liquid. Team Liquid brought their A game to this entire tournament, because personally, I wrote an article in Join Dota, and it was talking about how I thought Team Liquid, I personally thought Alliance was going to take Team Liquid out, and it was going to be over because Alliance came down from the upper bracket. But the crazy thing is that Team Liquid apparently didn't read that article because they continued. And Alliance just kind of fell apart. And Team Liquid ended up going on a warpath all the way to second place.
Wow. They did find a sort of a new gear for themselves. Exactly. Didn't they? A lot of things sort of clicked for them.
This is a conversation, though, I specifically about Alliance versus Liquid. This is a conversation that I've had with a number of people already that I think this is where, you know, I look at stats, as you guys know, as much as anybody, but I think you really do, in a lot of cases, have to watch the actual games and have to reference specific series. Because if you look back to Starladder 13, Alliance and Liquid played each other in the playoff phase of a single elimination bracket, and that was, to that point, I thought, the best Pro Dota 2 series that we had seen this year. It was just a really impeccably well-played series by both teams. I thought both teams deserved to win. Alliance ended up prevailing in Game 3, but it was not at all a surprise to me to see Liquid take that series, because they had shown that they were capable of playing Dota at that level. Now, like I say, you know, I think if they had a do-over again, Alliance probably believes that they could have taken that Complexity series. But if you look at the individual plays from Alliance, Loda had a really, really solid tournament. Right? Yeah. Ake played well this tournament. Their drafts were pretty good this tournament. They have a lot. When you look at coming out of the event, things that they did right and things that they did wrong, Alliance and Complexity both just have a hell of a lot to build on in terms of what they can do going forward.
No, I certainly agree. And you talk about referencing specific series when you talk about comparing these teams. We're sort of at a point in the development of competitive Dota where you can no longer just say, this team's first, this team's second. The stratification of talent just doesn't exist like it used to, did it? It really comes down to who showed up that day as opposed to who has the most talented lanes.
No, you're talking to somebody that obviously we've had this discussion before that I did college basketball statistics for years as a hobby and still kind of do. And that's what I say all the time about the NCAA tournament is at the end of the day, you can play around with bracketology all you want, but it really is about matchups. It's about the draw that you get. And, you know, when I looked at that, the Shanghai bracket of necessity, because of the way that they played out the group stages, the Shanghai bracket matchups were randomly drawn at the end of the group stages. And when I looked at those brackets, I said to myself, you know, Liquid has a real chance to go far here. They are playing teams that I think that they can beat.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's cool, and I think it's a really big moment for competitive Dota that we don't have. But EG, OG winning every single major and frankly, we almost had a completely different top 3 except for EG.
Exactly.
And that's 4 out of the top 6 are automatic qualifier teams. And when you look at the contrast between what happened in Shanghai, again, I mean, you can almost even take the failure of the Chinese teams out of the equation because you still have the reality that at Frankfurt, 7 out of the 8 invited teams finished in the top half of their group, and 7 out of the 8 invited teams finished in the top 8 of the field overall, the only exception being OG, who won the whole thing. And you look at Shanghai, and 4 out of the top 6 are these qualifier teams. We have more good teams in Pro Dota 2 right now than ever before.
That certainly explains why maybe people were so upset with the technical issues, because at the end of the day, once they got everything figured out, the Dota we watched in the winners finals and forward was incredible.
But the one thing I think we should probably go back on is the fact that all these teams, we're seeing the same teams over and over again, as we already have stated. But the fact is that Team Liquid came in out of nowhere. We're seeing teams that we don't see all the time. So I feel like Shanghai Major might be a turning point for professional Dota, where it feels like everyone has a chance to win these things. Because we saw OG at the Frankfurt Major. Shanghai Major is the second major ever, and we're seeing a completely different meta shift. As somebody that was on the show in the past stated, there is something that happens like a meta, like the major meta or the TI meta. Something beautiful.
Where in that weekend particular picks develop.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
no, and it was interesting. The contrast is really interesting here too, because at Frankfurt, the meta was very mature at that point. 6.85 was a very minor change over the 6.84 meta that dominated TI. 6.86 is a very, very new ball game. We still had a lot of uncertainty going into this tournament, and you saw it with, you know, Nature's Prophet, a hero that, you know, a lot of people were talking about the potential of that hero, especially with what Alliance was doing. But, you know, he ends up being tied right up there with Invoker and Vengeful Spirit for most picked heroes in the tournament. And, you know, that's kind of the innovation that we're seeing from these teams. It's not just the number of good teams, it's the number of viable strategies that we're seeing succeeding.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the maturity of the meta, because one thing that I actually paid attention to after, for example, EG took 3rd place, is that the meta, I don't want to say it's particularly narrow, but in the mid lane, like overall, but I think in the mid lane it most certainly is. And I ran the numbers, and as it turns out, we talked about Sumail not having a great impact on this tournament, like players like Weeha or
Weeha did amazing. Invoker play was piano and finesse.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Like if I had to define Weeha's Invoker play in the last series against Team Liquid, I would say it was
piano player.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
piano.
It most certainly was.
My god.
And yet for EG's problem seems to be that of the professional games that Sumail has played, his hero pool seems to have shifted almost completely out of the meta. If you look at the final draft of EG against Team Liquid, for example, when they picked him as Zeus, arguably that was one of their best options, if only because it was one of the last remaining picks that Sumail had played any significant number of games on. As somebody who tracks the trends and looks at these teams, we see EG once again not hitting 1st place, which once again we're not in a position where one team should be winning everything. But what does this team need to do to get Sumail more involved?
Well, let me respond to that in 2 ways. First of all, as a general principle, I think you have to be careful with those kinds of statements because of exactly what we were discussing a moment ago, and that being that a lot of meta innovation does occur at these lands, much more than you see with online play. Things change a lot faster, and the statements that you just made about Sumail were the same thing that a lot of people were saying about Wii going into this tournament, that his Meepo got nerfed, that his Wind Ranger has not been that great a hero this patch, that, oh my gosh, they're not going to win this tournament behind Mid-Earth Spirit, which, by the way, they ran that a couple times and it looked pretty damn good.
Yep.
So I think you got to be careful about that because the meta can change in a hurry. And, yes, you're absolutely right that Wii was phenomenal on Invoker throughout this tournament, but he also had some amazing games on Wind Ranger showing that hero is absolutely still viable. And the Mid-Earth Spirit worked out. It's not, at the end of the day, you don't really have to have a hero pool that's that large. At the end of the day, you've got to have a hero pool that's robust in the sense that it's big enough that you can't get entirely banned out, and it fits into enough different strategies that your team has tactical options within the game. And I don't think Sumail's hero pool is the problem. I really don't. I think it's teams have gotten much better drafting against EG, and they haven't necessarily really fully made the adjustment to having Sumail and RTZ to beat a drum that's been beat many times before. I don't think that they fully made that adjustment back to having both of them on the same team. But then again, Fear was outstanding for them in this tournament. The guy that a lot of people would look at and say, well, gosh, isn't the next logical move to replace Fear with Zai?
No,
not anymore.
Not after what Fear showed in Shanghai.
Yeah,
he's not done yet. He might be old, but he's not completely finished.
Oh my goodness, he was great. He really was. He and Pile I Die. I talked and I still talk about all the time about how I think that Crit and Jerax are just playing on a different level, or we're playing on a different level than anybody else. I think Fear's right up there now, and of course Pile I Die's support play I thought was just awesome throughout the tournament, and the way that they were able to play off that it's just the little things like him being able to completely disrupt the Liquid rotation with a multi-man Earth Spike, and then they walk right back into the base, they smoke up 3 heroes and rotate out and catch Liquid completely off guard, and they did that 2 different times in one game. That's beautiful support play, and we saw a lot of that in this tournament.
And I think it's worth saying, I mean, we're only at the second major. We've got one more major, and then we've got Manila and then TI, right?
Manila and then TI, yeah.
Okay. I think we're already seeing say what you will about the technical issues in Shanghai. There's already been plenty said about the technical issues in Shanghai.
And there will be plenty more.
But I think that we're already seeing sort of the fruit of the major system. Now, I'm not a paid Valve employee or anything like that, but we're already seeing that even 6 months before TI,
we're seeing good Dota
We're seeing incredible Dota. And it used to be that people would sort of play...
Save until the international.
Yeah, play lazy Dota, play, just do whatever they need to do to get the winnings. And obviously people wanted to compete, people wanted to win. I'd never take that away from them. But I think we're already seeing an incredible level of play. And all I got to say is, I cannot wait for Manila, man. I just can't wait till these things come around.
In the next year, we might get the minor system because CSGO has a minor system right now.
I hope so.
So if we get the minor system, we're going to have something where we can see smaller teams push forward and get into the next majors and the internationals.
I really do. I think I really do think everything that we've seen apart. People have been talking to me about this lately because I've been one that's calling for, I don't think that there should be 8 directly invited teams for majors out of 16. I think there should be more like 6. And a number of people have responded to that. Well, that you've got Frankfurt, where it was mostly by the book, very chalky, to use the NCAA tournament term. And then you've got Shanghai, which was the Cinderella story. Well, it's not just those two, though. You go back to TI5, and TI5, who thought CDC was going to make the run that they did? I mean, it really is. There are so many of these teams that can compete, and I really do think the next step for our scene is having greater access for some of these regional teams in via a minor system. But again, there's some logistical hurdles to that. I don't want to marginalize those, and it's not going to happen overnight. But my hope, even more so than just the great Dota at the events that we've seen, my hope was that the major system was just going to push the whole scene in a better direction. And I really do, apart from all the issues that we've mentioned, I really do think it has.
But on the other hand, I would say that if any company could do the minor system perfectly and in a short amount of period of time, it would be Valve. Because to Valve, money is absolutely nothing. Look at what they did at Shanghai.
Right.
Oh, these people are messing up. New production company next day. Come on. It was beautiful.
There are different perspectives on that, my friend. And I would also ask the question, if you're going to give them credit for that, you gotta ask the question, why wasn't the planning a little bit better to begin with? But again, I am a very well publicized Valve fan. I think that everybody involved takes their fair. When something goes as wrong as it did in Shanghai, it's not one person or group that's to blame. Okay, everybody has to take their fair share of the, hey, we're going to do things differently next time. But that's fine. But I think the infrastructure is starting to be in place. I think, face it, as much flack as some people give them,
they're doing great.
I think Faceit is doing a good job in terms of making these open qualifiers accessible to the most possible teams. I think that they're starting to have the infrastructure in place, and they're working very, very hard to try and make some of these things that we're talking about possible.
Agreed. Yeah, certainly so. And moving forward, I mean, there's literally nothing but lessons to be learned here, right? I mean, the crowds in China were great on the final days. Besides the smell of glue in the booth, things ran particularly seamlessly, and that's in a tournament using Chinese servers, which have a reputation.
Can't
moving
take
forward,
that Chinese firewall.
I'm sure moving forward, we'll see a much smoother production. Nahaz, we could talk to her blue in the face about Shanghai, and frankly, I would love to talk about it until Manila, but sadly, we have to say adieu. Any final thoughts about Shanghai before we say goodbye to you for the day?
Well, to sort of put in a shameless plug for myself, I do have a series of articles up and also coming out about this on ESPN.com's new esports section, so you can go check those out. I have a series called Darren Back Again, which is a kind of a retrospective and a blow-by-blow of Team Secret's journey through Shanghai, focusing on them and what they were able to do there. Probably going to come out with some other material as well next week. Look for my Stats Don't Lie videos on YouTube. Should have the next edition of that up in the next couple of days. We got a lot of great stuff coming, and we got a lot of things coming in Pro Dota 2 in general that I think you guys are going to really like.
Awesome. Just for future reference, I might know of an esports publication that would love to have your voice on its pages.
Yeah, Polygon.
Wink,
you
wink.
guys know how to get in touch with me. I am not tied down as far as this stuff goes. I'm happy to provide great content for people that are interested.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nahaz, for joining us, and good luck on your writing, and we look forward to hearing more from you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take it easy. Talking about Shanghai and about all the mistakes and stuff like that, I think that one of the coolest things that I saw from the, as weird as this is to say, from the anger about Shanghai is that people really care.
Yeah, they do.
People really care about the players specifically. I mean, the player's keyboard was lost, and you could easily say, lol, wow, this thing is terrible. But people were making it personal, right? They said, no, Ramses deserves better than this.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and he most certainly does. And it was just really cool to see people get so upset in a weird way, because it just shows how much passion there really is for this thing to work.
But the thing is I mean, this is what we spend our days doing. This is what we spend our evenings and our mornings, and why we wake up late for work sometimes. This is Dota is not, it's not so much as a pastime, it kind of is a personality trait. Oh, are you a Dota player? Yeah, I'm a Dota player. I could talk to you for 30 minutes about why Yule Scepter is the most amazing thing on Lena. But ask me about basketball, and I'm just going to be like, huh? It's an orange ball, right?
Yeah, we actually had Tiffany in the studio earlier to record the clip that we're going to show. And as soon as she was in the studio, I was like, oh my God, another Dota person. Verbal diarrhea. You just take all of my thoughts.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's what kind of happens when we show up in the studio. We just talk about Dota. Because we're surrounded by League players.
Surrounded by them. Anyway, of course, coming up next, before we talk to London Conspiracy, we've got our resident team fight expert, Tiffany, to give us a little breakdown of when and when not to take a fight.
Hello everybody, I'm Tiffany and welcome to Tiffany Teaches Team Fights. Today we look at a fight from the grand finals of the Shanghai Major in Game 3 of Team Secret versus Team Liquid. Already at a disadvantage, Liquid jump into a fight under tower and take out one from Secret, but at the cost of 4 deaths on their side. Let's take a look. Fada on the OD dives under the tier 1 mid, trying to take out the puppy Doom. But the rest of his team is a little far behind him, and when Tiny IO relocate in, there is an Eternal Envy Clinks waiting for them. And he hurts. The rest of Secret converge. Fada just barely manages to take out Doom before his Aegis is popped. Tiny gets destroyed while Io gets glimpsed back all the way to out of the fight. A timely blink out from the OD when he respawns and he saves his second life. But the Tidehunter isn't quite as lucky and, with glimpse and all, is hunted down and deleted by Team Secret. So what went wrong? Already at a net worth disadvantage, it was not Liquid's best interest to force a fight, especially one under the Secret Tower. The OD took tower damage the entire time he was trying to kill off that pesky Doom. There's also the matter of that destructive Clinks. Not only did he decimate the health of every Liquid hero, this fight was the premiere of his BKB. If Liquid had managed to focus down and take out the Clinks, this fight might have taken a very different turn. So to wrap up, focus down the primary damage dealers, be careful where you choose to take fights, and the tower does in fact hurt. This has been Tiffany Teaches Team Fights, back to you at the desk.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for that enlightening look at how absurdly broken Clinks is.
Why'd you say it like that?
How absurdly broken. It's just, you gotta admit, it's pretty staggering how
He's
much
not
damage.
broken. He's not. He's well balanced.
He's not.
He's great.
Just,
Everything.
He's
it's
literally like
DOTA.
If you breathe on him, he would break. But in the
Exactly.
meantime, he's just beating the crap out
Organ
of you.
malevolence is used on him for a reason.
Yeah,
like that's the
no,
thing.
he's the great hero. Coming up with us next, we've got a team that did not manage to make it to the major. However, they are on a serious upswing. London Conspiracy will join us. We've got Jellopy and Solen coming at us. Guys, can you hear us?
Yeah,
Yes, we can.
perfectly fine.
Excellent. Well, how are you guys?
I'm fine.
I'm great.
Jellopy
Just a
informed us
bit
that
tired.
because of how late the interview is, he would be a little bit tired. So we forgive him for that. So guys, talk to me a little bit about how you guys became London Conspiracy. Because before you were London Conspiracy, if I'm not mistaken, you were known as Princess Jellopy.
Yeah. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I think I was the one who initiated the whole thing. I talked to like several people after the TI reshuffle, and I talked with Kefka, and I talked with Baby Knight a lot, and we played a couple of games with each other and with a couple other guys. But we decided we wanted to play with another support duo, so we saw Beaver and we saw Solen playing with another team, and I think I stood in for them a game. And
Yeah, that's right.
after that, I just kind of snatched them from their team.
Is that something that you can do when you're on a good sponsored team? Is just be like, hey, you could make money doing that.
Exactly.
Oh, we weren't sponsored then, but yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
I mean, back then I had just started playing again. I hadn't played for like a year and a half, and then I started again this summer. And I was trying to find a team. Played with some other people, and Jellopy asked if me and Beaver would try out for them, and it ended up working out. And
I got you,
we,
fam.
yeah.
Now I've actually always wondered, because you say it ended up working out. Is there a point in your practice where you're just like, it just clicks, like you're like, this is going to be a good team, like we've got a chance to do something really great here? How does that go down?
I mean, for me, it's more personality thing. You need to figure out if you can play with the people in your team, like personality-wise, and from then on, you just build.
Like when you play with people, like in voice and when you play scrims, you just get a feel of how much they know about the game. So if you play with a like bad Dota player, you kind of see it right away. And I saw that Solen was a great player, so I kept on playing.
Well, it's not just about being bad. It's also like having the right attitude and wanting to move forward
that as well.
together as a team.
Have
You can
ever had those-
easily find out if people are committed to the team and not just for themselves.
Have you ever had that really awkward moment where like you're playing with a player and he just says something and your brain is just like, oh boy.
Yeah, every game.
Sure, every game. So when you're looking for new players to play with, do you have something you're looking for in mind, or is it usually just something organic that happens?
What did you say for a new player?
When you're playing with new players for the team.
I just try to get a feel of everyone's playstyle and figuring out how to best enable them in the games.
So one of the questions I have for you all is, if you have a playstyle, London Conspiracy has a playstyle and whatnot, do you feel like London Conspiracy would to change a little bit to fit a new player, or would you usually just have your playstyle and have your other person conform?
Are you asking to join London
No, I'm not.
Conspiracy?
I'm asking, like, what do they do? Like,
what do you guys think of...
No, how does a professional team or an amateur team or any kind of team that has some kind of format or like something that works...
Sure, a playstyle.
Exactly. If they have this playstyle, would it modify for somebody new? Would you modify it, or does it, like, when you have something that it works, do you stick to it? What do you do?
I mean, we haven't changed the player since we started, so it's a bit a long time since I did it, but I would definitely change it according to the new player.
Yeah.
It's I mean, you see it with, for example, EG when they picked up TC again, they changed their playstyle completely to fit in with it. Each player takes a different role, and you have to fit those roles together.
So, do you all watch much professional Dota, by the way?
Yeah.
Not really.
All right.
Most games, I would say.
So, going back to this, would you say that there's anybody that you actually, like, when you were getting into the scene, was there somebody you looked up to, anybody that you idolized, anybody that you followed very closely to learn their play style and how they play?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Basically, when you guys were getting into Dota, did you look at any of the old timers like Universe or Fear and say, I want, or like Puppy and say, I want to be like that guy? Or did you sort of go your own way?
I think I kind of went my own way, at least. I have my own ideas, and being a captain and drafter, I kind of want to put those ideas into play in my own games.
I play mouse style as well. Shit, I can't remember the question.
You did say you'd be tired during the interview, and basically just asked, is there anybody that you sort of looked up to as you were climbing the ranks?
Well, before I can't really remember who I looked up to, but right now I think I still look up to RTC. I watch his stream sometimes, and like sometimes he does really stupid shit, but sometimes he does good shit that I like copy sometimes.
Can I just emphasize,
obviously,
you watch Arteezy's stream and you still respect him?
I don't.
I think it's enjoyable, actually.
He certainly has his own brand of humor, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, obviously, one of the hard parts I can only imagine for a team like you guys is not making the major, coming up just short in the qualifier, something like that. As you guys stay home from it sounded like I'm rubbing salt in the wound. When you didn't go to the qualifier, how much did that suck? When you stay home from the major specifically, how do you use that to motivate you, and how do you best use your time while you watch everybody get their keyboard stolen in Shanghai?
Well, I love to watch the games, but of course I want to be there myself. But I think you learn a lot. I mean, even if you don't go to the tournament, you watch the tournament to learn, because whatever is getting played there is probably something you have to look forward to playing yourself later on.
Like this time when it was major, we kind of took the chance to take a break as well, because we played a lot before this major. So we took a vacation.
For like 2 weeks or something straight with games all the time.
Like even on weekends? Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
Every
I
single
think we
day.
played like 3 weeks in a row, maybe 4 weeks. Like every day. It was
it was a lot, so we could need a
exhausting.
break, and we got some time to resettle. So that's good for us, I think.
They say the brain is like a muscle, and after 4 weeks, I can only imagine that your muscles were pretty exhausted.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're really happy with what happened during those weeks, so I think we're all fine with taking some less sleep.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Except when you have to appear on our show.
Exactly. Sorry about that.
It's completely fine. We don't have much going on right now.
There you go.
It'll come next week.
Well, there you go. Well, I'm glad we're not disrupting things too much, especially during a time when you need your rest. Obviously, with the Shanghai, or not with just with the Shanghai major, with the major system getting everybody really focused around a specific event, I can only imagine that you have to be on your A game 24/7 if you want to make the cut. As a team that's trying to rapidly making their mark in the scene, what teams are you most worried about as your obstacles to the qualifier spot as you pursue the Manila Major?
I mean, most of the tournaments we play in now, the teams we're playing are Empire and Vega and Na'Vi. Yeah, mostly Russian teams. So, I mean, they're also different, so it's hard to figure them out. And I mean, we're gonna keep studying until we do.
Is
those
the
are like
is
the
the
three
new
major.
Na'Vi legit? Like, I mean, because everybody jokingly posted Na'Vi is back when they started winning games with General. But having played them, what do you think of the new lineup?
I mean, we played them sometimes when they first formed, but we haven't really played them much since then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they can evolve a lot as a team. But they were like a new team back then when we played them, so I can't really say too much about it.
You just disappointed a lot of Na'Vi fans who just wanted to say they're back, guys. They're back.
Is that
I mean, they're
sarcasm?
definitely.
I mean, I'm not making a judgment on whether they're actually back or not, but there are teams out there, brand names out there that when you hear that they've got even a modicum of success, everybody wants to say
They're back.
They're back because they're a beloved team. Is it ironic that all of you guys are Danish and Swedish, and none of you are actually from the UK?
Sure.
Well,
it's
How
fine.
does that affect your play?
Does that expect to play at all?
Not really. No.
These are the jokes.
I think
people.
it
These are
helped
what
us a
people show
lot.
up for.
This is exactly. I've got nothing.
I didn't ask you.
You don't have to.
Anyway, getting back to questions. One of the things that really stood out to me as a longtime esports fan is the presence of a particular name on your team, and that's Baby Knight, a guy who obviously had a rather promising StarCraft career before he moved over to Dota 2. I've always been curious, and I'm glad I finally have the chance to ask you guys, does it make a difference playing Dota with somebody who has professional experience in a completely different genre?
Yeah.
Doesn't really make it. I mean, doesn't matter, I think.
You don't think so?
No. Like, he plays Dota right now. And, yeah. That's what matters right now.
Yeah, I think it's not that big a thing. Like, it puts him in the right mentality, I would say. Like, he always works really hard. He plays probably the most pubs of all of us. He plays all the time, and he's very dedicated. So he's, I mean, that's what you have to do in StarCraft, so he carried it on to Dota.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people expected that when StarCraft players came over to Dota, like, every one of them would play Chen and have like 50 creeps and just be like microing them all over the map. I remember when Select actually came back and played for North American teams and claimed that APM would make an enormous difference in Dota 2. And sadly, like so many fallen champions, he became a meme.
Didn't they play in Cupid Red Pandas?
Yeah, he did.
Select with Sing Sing.
Yes, he did.
Wow, that's a name we all know. Anyway,
welcome back, Lee. Glad to see you brought your A game.
No, I was just like thinking about it because like actions per minute in Dota actually has no effect on anything whatsoever. And if anybody ever sat down and was just like, APM is going to be the numbers that you're going to be looking at and not like CS or something, you're just like, what are you doing with your life?
Well,
right
I mean, not to mention if you put in if you auto attack your minions, like, you know, constantly, you're just going to end up pushing the wave into the tower, like, and it's, you know, opening yourself to gank. So I don't know. I'm not sure. There are a lot of things that people say in esports that are based on absolutely no knowledge whatsoever. whatsoever.
None.
That was certainly among them. Now, the Shanghai Major is over. Obviously, rosters lock for the Manila qualifiers here pretty soon, and then obviously the chaos ensues. How are you guys preparing for the next major so that we can see London Conspiracy out there in the Philippines?
I mean, first we have to see the shuffle so we know what teams we're going up against. But, I mean, we're just going to study even harder. When we qualified for the last major qualifier, we didn't really have that much prepared for the teams in the qualifier. So we were mostly focused on winning the open qualifier. So next time we'll be way more prepared.
Do you think you guys, I'm actually not sure how, I mean, I suppose they have invited qualifier spots, so do you guys expect to get in? I mean, I can imagine, based on your track record recently, that you'll be in the invited qualifier. What difference does that make in terms of a load off your shoulders as you're getting ready for the big push?
I mean, it's an amazing thing to be invited, because playing the open qualifiers is really hard. You can end up playing like 12 hours, like 3 days in a row, and then you have to play the group stages right after for the open qualifier, for the closed qualifiers. So you're going to be exhausted when you come from the open qualifiers, and it's definitely an advantage knowing your group and being able to study them before, like way before having to actually play.
I'm being told that I accidentally said champions earlier. I'm sorry. I work in an office full of League of Legends players. They're all awful. They make me watch the LCS Thursday and Friday.
I heard you say minions. I was gonna comment on that, but
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best, guys. All right.
I like that we have different
trying.
nomenclature for things.
What's that?
I like that we have different nomenclature and whatnot.
Really? Because I'm gonna put this out there and see what you guys think. Who gives a fuck if you call them heroes and champions? And maybe it's not good for me to argue that case, right? Because I messed it up,
man.
But like what difference does it make, right? Like why?
We're not making friends here. Let's just drop it.
It's all about the principles.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think. I mean, it's obviously just for fun that people joke about it, and when people say it wrong.
You'd be surprised. There are people who actually take it very seriously. Like he said, minions. I'm done. Like they get legitimately upset when people.
You can only be referring to Twitch chat.
Yeah.
You,
Think
sir,
so
are astute. That was an astute observation. Well, guys, I mean, it's sadly we're in the down season. So there's not a ton of Dota going on. What is the next obligation for you guys? What is next on London Conspiracy's calendar?
I think next week Epicenter or.
Yeah, Monday starts Epicenter, and
I'm not sure if you can talk
we're gonna
about
have a lot of games
other
around,
stuff.
Any idea who's in your bracket yet, or who you have to face?
Yeah, we're in group. Oh well, I don't know if it's group or bracket, but
I'm not sure.
Vega, Navi, PR, Empire, and one more team. I think I can't really
Spirit,
remember.
maybe.
Yeah, Spirit maybe.
Do you ever wish you were in like a North American qualifier where the invited teams still have goofy names and no sponsors?
Yeah, that would be lovely.
That's crazy. We have
but it's. I mean, it's also nice to play here because you have a lot more scrim opponents, and I think you'd get better practice from playing here.
There's a lot of people that have actually said that the day one EG problem, where they seem to play weaker on day one, is partly to blame for that. Do you think there's any legitimacy to that idea?
Maybe a little, but I think it's also that they're a great team at adapting, and maybe they're a bit relaxed at the start of the tournament.
Maybe they just want an excuse. I mean, you played bad.
Wow. Shots fired, Jellopy.
Yeah.
Well, you guys could take them down, and we'll hear all about it.
Right,
guys,
sure.
we're actually almost out of time here. Any closing thoughts? Any well wishes for London Conspiracy before we close up shop?
Just follow us on Twitter, support our team, believe the conspiracy.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone
conspiracy.
supporting.
I like it.
Yep.
Hashtag feed the conspiracy.
I like that. That's got,
Yep.
it's got a nice ring to it. All
It's,
right, guys.
it's like hashtag bleed blue.
There you go. Believe the conspiracy.
yeah.
I like that. That's really cool. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Jellopy, go get some sleep, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. Take it easy. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's show, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much to Nahaz for breaking down Shanghai and London Conspiracy. Not what, obviously, it wasn't all of them. Although, if they want to qualify with only 2 players,
That'd be amazing.
You'd have to say they're pretty legit.
It'd be Chin and Enchantress the whole thing.
Thank you so much to Jellopy and Solen for coming on this show. If you like the show, also big credit, big shout out to our producer, Stephen Toffees Pierce, who I'm sure would absolutely have my head if I forgot to mention what an incredible job he does booking guests for us. Tomorrow night we have another great show for you, not Dota related, but we have it for the Smash Brothers show. We've got the Buzz coming on the show. If you're a Smash Brothers fan as well as a Dota fan, you'll want to check that out, as we'll be asking him questions live on the air from Reddit. If you liked our show back in tonight, go ahead and check out the youtube.com/daily.esports. Check out the VOD there. You'll be able to see the thing in full. Also hit follow on the Twitch below, or if you're feeling particularly generous, go ahead and hit that $4.99 subscribe button. It's just $5 a month. And you get access to the dumpster fire and shit hitting the fan emotes that were so beautifully crafted by our team. Big thanks to them for putting those together. If you want to hear more esports news, check us out on facebook.com/daily.esports and over at Twitter @.esports. I have been Ian Doublejohn Barker. This has been Lee Malice Massey's glorious return.
Yep, that one.
Yeah.
That's a word.
We'll see you guys next time.